My own parents sued me for refusing to hand over my house to their golden daughter. They called me selfish, ungrateful, and threw me out like trash. I didn't beg. I stayed silent until I handed the judge a file. They went pale and started begging. Hello everyone. My name is Clara. And if someone had told me years ago that the people who raised me, who tucked me in at night and drove me to piano lessons, would one day drag me into court over the home I worked my entire life to build, I would have laughed. But now I'm not laughing. I was 29 years old when the betrayal unfolded, but it started long before that. I grew up in a modest suburban home just outside of Portland. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable, or at least that's what it looked like from the outside. Behind closed doors, the comfort belonged to one person, my younger sister Lily. Lily was the darling of the house. The sun rose and set on her smile. I was only 2 years older, but the way my parents treated us, you'd think I was the live-in nanny and she was royalty. When Lily spilled juice on a carpet, it was my fault for not watching her. When she forgot her homework, I got grounded for not reminding her. She was artistic, delicate, not built for stress. Meanwhile, I was level-headed, independent, and didn't need coddling. They called it love, but it was distribution. Lily got praise. I got responsibility. I remember being 14, babysitting Lily while my parents went to a wedding, missing my best friend's birthday party to stay home and help her with a school project she forgot about until the night before. She still got a gold star on it. My name was never mentioned. In college, I worked part-time to cover expenses. Lily got a car for her 18th birthday. I paid for mine with 3 summers of restaurant shifts and tutoring sessions. Still, I didn't complain. I kept my head down, got a scholarship, earned a degree in architecture, and started working at a small but reliable design firm. I wasn't making millions, but I was building something for myself, quietly, carefully, and on my own terms. That's how I saved enough to buy my first home. It wasn't glamorous. A small 2-bedroom fixer-upper in a quiet neighborhood. The kitchen was outdated, the roof needed patching, and the backyard was more weeds than lawn. But the bones were good and I saw potential. For over a year I poured everything into it. Nights spent painting cabinets, weekends spent learning how to install drywall, and mornings at Home Depot comparing faucets. I documented the entire process on a private blog. No one in my family ever commented, shared, or congratulated me. I didn't even get a nice job, but that didn't matter because it was mine, every inch of it. Then came Lily's entrepreneur phase. After dropping out of college, she announced she was going to be a holistic lifestyle brand. I had no idea what that meant, and I'm not sure she did either. She started selling crystal-infused water bottles, posted dreamy photos on Instagram about healing energies, and launched a GoFundMe for a studio she never opened. Within 6 months, she was broke again. My parents covered the first collapse. I covered the second. I gave her $5,000 for my emergency fund. No strings. No questions. Just trust. She cried. Hugged me. Called me the best big sister ever. Then disappeared for 3 months and never brought it up again. When I finally asked about repayment, she said, "You don't understand how hard I have it. I'm not built for the 9 to 5 like you. Like me, I built walls, not just routines. I patched drywall with my bare hands. I filed taxes for a sole proprietorship, mowed my own lawn, negotiated contracts. But sure, I was just built for it. The truth? I was tired. Tired of being the backup plan, the quiet one, the safety net." The lawsuit started with a conversation that still plays on a loop in my head. My parents called and asked me to come over. "Nothing bad," Mom said. "Just some family planning stuff." I arrived at their house, a place I hadn't spent more than an hour in over the past year, and found them all sitting in the living room. My mom, my dad, and Lily. My mother smiled like this was normal. "Clara, honey, we've been thinking." Lily folded her hands in her lap, expression already smug. "You live alone," Mom said gently. "And Lily's been struggling with housing ever since the incident with her last rental. The incident where she threw a house party and flooded the neighbor's laundry room." I asked. "She's just had a tough time lately," Dad interrupted. "You know, Lily's sensitive." I stayed quiet. "Wouldn't it make more sense," Lily said, tilting her head sweetly, "for me to move into your house? I mean, it's kind of a waste with just you." I blinked. Was this really happening? "I'm sorry," I said carefully. "That's not going to work. I own that house. It's not a shared family asset." Their faces changed in unison. We helped raise you, Dad said flatly. Mom added, all we're asking is for you to think about what's fair. Fair? Fair was me sacrificing every comfort so Lily could continue treating life like a game. She never had to finish. I said no. I replied, standing up. I walked out. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. 2 weeks later I came home to find a thick envelope at my doorstep. Inside, a letter from a lawyer. My parents' lawyer. The claim? That they had provided long-term financial support during my youth, which gave them stakeholder interest in any property I purchased in the following 10 years. It was absurd. Legally flimsy. Ethically disgusting. But they were really doing it. They were suing me for ownership or at minimum access to my home. To give it to Lily, I called my parents. No answer. I texted. Nothing. Then Lily posted a story on Instagram, a photo of her posing in front of my house with a caption manifesting moves. That was the moment something inside me broke. Not in grief, not in pain, in resolve. I didn't yell. I didn't confront. I got organized. I pulled out my binder, the one I'd kept from the day I closed on my home. Receipts, contractor invoices, closing documents, bank transfers, screenshots of Lily's requests, emails, call logs, a detailed timeline showing every time I bailed her out and how much it cost me. I put it all in a single file because if they wanted a legal fight, I was going to give them one. I walked into that courtroom on a cloudy Tuesday morning with a file folder tucked under my arm and a decade's worth of buried heartbreak sitting in my chest. The courtroom was small, quiet, nothing like the dramatic scenes you see on TV. My lawyer Jenna, a soft-spoken powerhouse in a gray blazer, gave me a reassuring nod as we took our seats. My parents were already there. So was Lily. She looked like she was attending a brunch, not a legal proceeding. Perfect blowout, oversized sunglasses on her head, silk blouse I knew she couldn't afford on her own. She didn't even look at me. The judge arrived, an older woman with sharp eyes and zero patience for nonsense. The case began. Their lawyer, a smug middle-aged man named Clark, stood and began by calling me ungrateful and resentful, painting me as some cold-hearted daughter who denied her struggling sister a place to live in a home partially supported by family resources. He cited vague parental contributions, emotional investment, and even hinted at verbal agreements made during Clara's adolescence. I almost laughed. Then it was our turn. Jenna stood calmly and began with, Your Honor, we will demonstrate that not only was no verbal agreement ever made, but that every dollar, every nail, and every inch of the property was funded and maintained solely by Miss Clara Morgan. She handed over my file. The judge began flipping through it. Receipts for every renovation, screenshots of texts from Lily begging for money, proof that I had paid every utility, every tax bill, every insurance premium, bank records showing the exact date I transferred $5,000 to Lily's account. Then came the letter and email from 2 years prior where Lily thanked me for bailing her out again and promised to repay you when I get my first sponsorship deal. The judge raised an eyebrow. Jenna added, Your Honor, we also have witness testimony that Lily Morgan has never contributed to this property and that her intent, based on publicly available social media posts, was not to seek shelter but to claim ownership. She pulled up a printed screenshot of Lily's Instagram story manifesting moves tag with my address in the background. For the first time, Lily's expression cracked. The judge looked directly at her. Miss Morgan, do you currently hold any lease contract or payment record tying you to this property? No, but thank you, the judge said, cutting her off. My parents sat frozen. My father looked like he'd aged 10 in 10 minutes. My mother would meet my eyes. The judge turned to them. Mr. and Mrs. Morgan, are you aware that filing a civil property claim without material evidence constitutes a misuse of court resources? They both fumbled. We thought she'd be more willing to what? The judge asked sharply. Surrender her home because your other daughter wanted it. Silence. Then came the best moment of all. The judge leaned forward and said, This is not just a baseless case. It is appalling. Miss Clara Morgan, you have no obligation to surrender, share, or modify your ownership of the property in question. I recommend you seek a protective order if further harassment occurs. Case dismissed. I didn't cheer. I didn't cry. I just breathed. Deep. Free. Jenna smiled at me. They should have known better. I nodded. They never cared to know me at all. That night I stood in my living room, my house with the windows open, music playing softly and a cup of tea in my hands. Everything felt different, lighter. They hadn't just tried to take my home. They tried to rewrite my entire identity, the dependable daughter, the one who always stepped back, always made room, always sacrificed. But I was done with that version of myself. I was no longer anyone's safety net. Lily tried to contact me weeks later, first with an email titled "Can we talk?" Then with a DM that simply said "I'm sorry." I was desperate. I left them unread. My parents tried too. A letter in the mailbox apologizing if we pushed too hard and hoped we could reconnect as a family that went into the shredder. You don't get to sue someone and then ask for dinner plans. Months passed. I planted wildflowers in the backyard, painted the guest room a soft yellow, adopted a rescue cat named Murphy who liked to nap in the sun by the window. I got promoted at work, built a new social circle, found peace. And then on a quiet weekend afternoon I opened the same file I had brought to court. Not out of anger, just to look at how far I'd come. At the front of it I added a page. It said this house was never just a building. It was the boundary I finally chose to defend, and I'd do it again. I closed the folder, set it on a shelf, and stepped into a future that for the first time in my life felt like mine alone. Some people spend their whole lives letting others decide their worth, their space, their boundaries. I did that for far too long. But the day I chose to fight for my home, I wasn't just defending a house. I was defending the version of me that finally knew she deserved to stay, to own, and to be left in peace. And that version of me, she's not going anywhere.